We like to get an opportunity to do this once in a while, and that is to talk real estate. We were talking about Dr. Horton, which I have found out, Sorkin, many people in that industry, and as a term of endearment, have called it Dr. Horton for years. So that was not actually a mistake. People are writing in that yet it's referred to as that. But let's talk big time real estate. You want to pay attention to this segment, I think, Sorkin, because it's Florida and Manhattan. Most of the real estate sector has been hard hit by the coronavirus pandemic, but ultra luxury rentals and sales in the U.S. have remained relatively strong despite the health crisis. Extremely high-end properties in South Florida have done particularly well, according to our next guest, who would know. If you know anything about high-end real estate, you know the Alexander group, and this is Oren Alexander. He's way too young to be doing as much business as he's doing, but he does. Luxury real estate broker at Douglas Elliman, the co-founder of the team, the Alexander team. And Oren, you specialize in these types of things. We don't need to go into who your clients are, but you sell. What's the most expensive piece of property you've ever sold of a private residence? It's like ridiculous. Yeah, so we're fortunate enough to hold the record in Miami, where I sold the most expensive house. That was last year for $50 million. In New York, we have the most expensive apartment to ever sell. London, we recently sold a townhouse for £86 million. And we've been basically covering the top end of the market, both New York and Miami, for the last decade now. Since you've had a couple of big sales, there have been huge sales, a couple of them in the last month. But in general, what has the trend been since the pandemic? We have heard people want to get the heck out of the crowded New York City, whether it's down to Florida, to Palm Beach, or Miami, or out to the Hamptons. Is that a trend that's continuing and that you have tried to help people act on? Yeah, that's correct. So basically, since March 1st, we've been helping our clients relocate for the quarantine. So we've done a lot of significant high-end rentals in the Hamptons as well as South Florida. That includes Palm Beach and Miami. So it's a trend that actually started March 1st, basically in the Hamptons. It was started, a lot of these clients had started their summer early, so to speak, where typically they rented starting in June, and now they just started that summer rental starting in March. In South Florida, what we're seeing is that a lot of the clients that came down here for quarantine and spending a lot of time in their homes have a new appreciation for that home. So we're seeing a lot of interest, a lot of inquiries, as well as a lot of recent sales on significant properties where clients are spending time in that home, appreciating that shelter, and wanted to make it permanent. So in South Florida, we've seen 4 significant sales over the last 30 days. In Miami, 2 of those sales, one was for $30 million. The second one was for $49 million, which was the second highest sale price in Miami history. In Palm Beach, we saw 2 sales north of $40 million. Hey, Oren, you've heard the expression, the rich really are different than the rest of us. And they really are. And you point out that as bad as things have been in this pandemic with people's net worths and looking at, and I mean, the pandemic is bad because of all the horrific health concerns, but the market is something that we follow at CNBC, and that has been affected. But rich people, it's their numbers on a piece of paper, right? They don't really change a lot of their behavior based on that, do they? They're still loaded. Well, I think we're talking about a very, very select market. We're not talking about hundreds of people. We're talking about tens of people at these prices. And I think what they're realizing is, if anything, that this tangible asset, such as your home, it will hold its value, if anything, during the pandemic, more so than. Exactly. And I think now especially. So this market that we're talking about has been on an upward trajectory now for almost 2 years. So, Oren, in Palm Beach. Yeah, I'm sorry, we got about 20 seconds. I hate to interrupt you, but you think now is the time that New York, that Manhattan real estate starts bouncing, or it's at levels now where it's going to get a lot of interest? Yeah, well, I think Manhattan real estate has, been suffering for the last, couple years. And I think now, given the pandemic, it's creating a lot of opportunity, creating ultimately probably the best buying opportunity we'll see since 9/11.
And I think people are realizing that. So we're excited for the next couple months as we think we'll be doing a lot of transactions.